Hi YouTube. How can you get more done in less time? And how can you keep control of your time? How can you be more efficient? Today I want to talk about efficiency and how understanding a few key principles can change your life. Efficiency seems to be the hottest topic nowadays, and I really understand why. There are always these people around you that are good at their job, they're exercising, they're going on holiday trips around the world, and they still get to see their family and they're not having mental breakdowns all the time. I aspire to be one of these people, to be honest. And since a couple of years, I've been implementing a couple of powerful techniques that have really changed how I see work and getting things done. I started reading a lot of books on the topic, but there are two that really stand out and are crucial. One is the 4-Hour Work Week, and the other is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The content of today's video will be split up into two parts. One is going to be on the general efficiency, so applicable to more common jobs like answering emails and just getting basic work done, let's say linear progress. And I will also elaborate on a concept called Eisenhower Matrix, which will really explain the background of thinking of how you can be more effective and what are the kind of activities that you should engage in and what are the kind of activities that you should try to avoid. In the second part, I want to discuss something that has not been discussed a lot online, I feel, which is how to handle creative or more non-linear processes or jobs. I will give you a powerful framework that lets you understand the human mind a bit better. So the first point I want to start with is ignore or redirect all information and interruptions that are irrelevant, unimportant, or unactionable. Ignore or redirect all information or interruptions. This is, I think, a thing that we can kind of put into the right context at an office. Someone comes to your desk, you get an email, you get a message, and someone is engaging with you. They're sharing a piece of information with you, they're asking you a question, and the first part is you should ignore or redirect something. So what is this something then? The statement says everything that is irrelevant, unimportant, or unactionable. The first two, irrelevant and unimportant, is really strongly connected to what kind of goal do you have. And I want to highlight that this is actually pretty crucial because it can be the case that your current goal of doing a certain job has a certain direction, but maybe there's another goal which might be socializing with people. That's something that gives you energy. That's something that you feel like it's an integral part of your life. In that case, someone coming to your desk asking you how your weekend was might not be part of your goal at that moment for the task that you're working on, but it might be part of the bigger picture. So we're going to park that for now because I want to make a full episode on how to make a personal mission and how to put that into the right context. But let's say we focus completely on the work aspect and we say, I'm working on a specific project, I have a specific task. Anything that is irrelevant or unimportant to this task, to this project, I will try to ignore or redirect. So redirect can also be delegate or simply push it back to a different time, or ignore. Basically, it's hard if someone's standing at your desk to ignore that person, but to if it's a message, let's say it's a message or an email, you can ignore that. And the last point is unactionable. This is very important because sometimes you can get pieces of information that might be relevant and important, but you cannot act on them at that moment, or maybe ever. But if that's the case, there's no point in thinking about it and spending time or energy on it. You have to isolate that fact from the activity that you're doing at that moment. So that's what the first statement says. The second point is batch tasks. It's a very short statement, but it's very powerful. What it basically means, batching, is reserving a certain portion of time to do one specific kind of task or one specific task. So for instance, the very clear example that Timothy Ferriss gives in his book is, for instance, emails. So he says, don't have your Messenger and your Outlook open all day long, because that's just a source of repetitive interruptions coming in at the mercy of other people, basically. You are not in control and you'll be interrupted all day long. So what he says is, check your email in one specific period of the day. For him, he even takes it to the extreme. He checks his email once a week. And he also says in his automatic reply, I will not be checking my email until Friday afternoon. If there's something urgent, call me at this number. He said what actually happens is that people don't call him because it's not that urgent. And if once in a million years someone calls him, he knows it's urgent enough that he might actually need to act on it at that moment. So batching of emails is actually batching of a task so that it doesn't distract you while you are doing another batch of actions. So another batch could be documenting. If you need to document something that you did, you need to write a document. You don't want to be bothered with other stuff. You don't want to be maybe in an environment where people approach you and distract you. You don't want to have your emails open. So maybe it's better if you want to work on a document that you go and sit in a library somewhere where it's quiet, or you sit at home, or you sit in a focus area somewhere at work. Whereas if you are in a batch, let's say, where you need to brainstorm or be creative and you need different inputs, maybe then it's more logical and beneficial if you actually sit in a room with other people where these interactions at that point are no longer distractions but actually beneficial to you. So by batching activities, you actually dedicatedly prioritize and batch half a day for a specific action. You can work focused on that action and be way more efficient. This is actually the way that I try to do my bigger projects. Is I will simply block an entire day if I need to fully focus on that, and I will cancel all the meetings there. This might not always be possible, I understand that, but just to give you an example of how you could implement this. Finally, the last point is limit tasks to the important to shorten work time, and shorten work time to limit the tasks to the important. I believe this is called the Parkinson's rule. People might know the concept of 80-20, where in any given process, 20% of the effort results in 80% of the results. Also meaning that 80% of your effort only results in a 20% increase of your results. So there are two sides that you can look at this. One is basically to intentionally shorten the amount of time that you will work on a given project so that you are forced to only work on important things. The other is if you have a clear view of what the important things are, you can only work on those and you will find that you will spend way less time. I find the first one more likely to work because usually you don't think that much about how is my problem or project really built up, but it's kind of there intuitively. So when you have less time, you know what to work on, basically. So to give a concrete example, let's say you have a task that you know you will probably need around 10 hours to finish it. If you tell yourself, I need to get it done by the end of the week, those 10 hours will spread out and you will spend the whole week before you finished it. And maybe you will not even finish it because there's no concrete time frame and you always feel like I still have time. You will get distracted by other stuff. Whereas if you say to yourself, I will only take 5 hours on Monday morning and I will work on this problem for 5 hours and that's it, that's my deadline, then you will find that you will get it done, or you will at least deliver something that is finished in 5 hours. And that's a very powerful thing, and you should really try this out. It's very well described in the book. There are a couple of good examples if you want to read on it, but I do advise to just put it into practice yourself. So think about, what is the deadline that I have? The real deadline. How much time do I think that I need? And then give yourself half of the time that you think that you need, and tell yourself, I will deliver a presentable or deliverable product within half the time, and see how far you get. And look, maybe you need to improve on that still, but you will be amazed at what you can generate in that time. So again, I listed here for you the 3 tips that I extracted from the book. I think they're all in line with each other, and these are really practical things that you can implement for most common jobs, which are linear processes where you really get something, you need to get something done and you know how to get it done. So I want to talk a little bit more about efficiency and distractions, basically. So I want to explain something called the Eisenhower Matrix. What you see here is a matrix where you see at the top urgent and non-urgent, and on the side important and unimportant things. So these blocks represent tasks that you can do and activities that you can spend time on. And typically these are depicted as quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Now, I think for most people, it's pretty intuitive to understand that urgent and important things, you should work on those, basically. There's no discussion on that. And it's also pretty clear that unimportant things, you probably want to limit the amount of time that you spend on those because they're unimportant. Again, for the specific goal that you have in mind. But I want to explain to you that actually the not urgent important things, so the quadrant 2 activities, are way more important than the urgent important ones. This might be a bit counterintuitive, but understanding this will help you a lot. So, one thing we need to understand is that the time in this matrix flows from right to left. So things that were not urgent before might become urgent in the future, which makes sense, right? So imagine a deadline. Like if the deadline is in 6 months, it's not urgent right now. But if the deadline is tomorrow, it is very urgent. Second, urgency reduces quality. So if you are in a rush, if you have a deadline, if you have 10 minutes before you need to present and you need to make the presentation, you're going to rush. You're going to feel stressed. Maybe there are multiple things that you need to do in those 10 minutes. Typically, pressure impedes good decision making. This is like a rule of thumb. I know there are a couple of people who really thrive under pressure. I'm not such a person. I think in general, people say if you're under time pressure, decision making deteriorates drastically. What happens as time flows? More and more activities that were not urgent become urgent, which means that the urgent quadrants, the quadrant 1 and 3, will increase. There will be more activities there, so less time to work on the non-urgent things. What happens if you have a lot of things to do in a short period of time with a close deadline? You cannot really decide anymore between what is really important and what is unimportant. You cannot distinguish between urgent and important anymore. And everything is urgent. So what tends to happen is that people think everything that is urgent must be important. So you tend to spend a lot of time on very unimportant things. Maybe you tend to like to spend time on things which are linear and actionable and things that you know how to do, but they might not be important. So deciding on importance becomes really blurry. When a list gets long and time is short, it's hard to distinguish urgent from important. So if you let these things happen, you might get into trouble, which is what can happen a lot in companies. For instance, for me, I know I have a a to-do list of 100 items, let's say, and I only have time for the top 5. And it's not for me, by the way, that's for the entire company. That's just the way things are. If I don't prioritize and if I don't keep track of what's important and unimportant, I will fail. So I have to make this distinction and decide these are the 5 things out of 100 that I will work on. So this was the worst case, let's say. I want to propose to you, how can you then properly implement this idea? Why am I showing this matrix? Let's say you work on the important, not urgent things most of your time. So you maximize Q2 activities, important things that are preventing, facilitating, and preparing in nature, right? So you will make sure that you are preparing yourself for unforeseen urgent things, and you are working on things that will happen a couple of months in the future that are not urgent. So you can do it with a clarity of mind. So you can properly work on them without having any time pressure. Second point, you take action on Q1 when needed, right? You cannot prepare everything. There are always some unexpected things, but because you started from the Q2 activities, so the not urgent important things, way less activities have accumulated in the urgent part. That list is way shorter, which means that you can way better distinguish between what is important and what is not important, right? And then third point, pretty clear, you have to avoid unimportant actions like the plague. So unimportant actions, again, in the context of the specific goal that you're working on, this might get a bit blurry again if you have multiple goals at different points, at different abstraction levels in your life, which is normal. Life is not easy. It is what it is. But to keep this in mind, I think the main takeaway, which is very, very important, work most of your time on activities from quadrant 2, not urgent, but important. The quality of your work will increase, and you will be way better at distinguishing between important and not important actions in the urgent spectrum. So I hope this has clarified a little bit how you can view the Eisenhower Matrix. It is really good to know this concept. It's a common framework that I refer to even if I talk with my colleagues that have also read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I talk about it at home with my girlfriend. We try to do a lot of quadrant 2 activities if we can. I'm of course also just human. I'm not saying that I'm a master of this, but I think this concept is just really good to understand, and you might actually understand from yourself where things are going wrong by understanding this matrix. So I hope this is a helpful concept for you. All right, so now we're in part 2. So I want to talk about a little bit about non-linear activities that you also have to work on sometimes. Let's say you want to write an email, right? I want to write an email where I want to share information, right? I'm communicating with that person. I'm sharing my information because I want to influence that person's behavior. I have the knowledge, the facts in my mind, but I also need to choose the right words in order to make it land. This can be quite overwhelming, and some people can, and myself as well, you start writing an email and you realize like, I cannot find the right words. I don't know what to say. Now I wrote a beautiful sentence, but I'm missing the context to what is actually my goal here. So for writing documents or emails, first write down all the facts in baby language. Basically, the advice is write a really, really bad first draft. You just write down all the facts that you want to mention in very simple tense, baby language. Let's say as an example, I'm writing an email to my girlfriend to go to the store and pick up food. So I will say, I am hungry. I need you to go to the store. I need you to bring apples, bananas, eggs, potatoes. And this is my first draft. This is what I want. This has the details, the facts that I want to share. But it's not written in a container that she would likely accept, right? But I have the facts there, and now I can maybe take even a break. I can come back and basically revise what I already written in the first draft, and you'll find that it will go much, much easier than if you try to do adding the content and beautifying it in the same period of time. In a similar way, I want to note basically a very insightful way to look at it from the book Art of Thought. The book describes that there are 4 stages of thought. The 4 stages of thought can be viewed as a framework to really understand a creative process, or let's call it a non-linear process. So a process where you don't have the exact steps yet to get to the solution. But this is, of course, something that happens all the time. To give a concrete example, if I need to wash and fold my laundry, it's a very linear process. I already know what I need to do. I can estimate the amount of time. I just need to do it, right? I need to not be distracted and all of these things that I mentioned in the first part. But if you want to write a novel, let's say, you want to write a book, you know how to write words, but you don't know which words to write. This is a very non-linear process. You might write a couple of chapters and then go a certain direction and realize you need to scrap everything that you did before. And these things can be pretty frustrating, especially if you're trying to be more efficient, because it feels like you're putting in a lot of time and you're putting in more and more of time because you want to get things done, but it's not happening. So this framework can help you completely understand how you should approach it. So that's why I think it's so powerful for efficiency as well. So the first step is preparation. So preparation is the thing that we always start off with. So you try to learn as much as you can about the problem. You try to understand what is the problem statement, what is the background, what is happening around that problem, what are other proposed solutions that did not work, or what might be an idea that I already have. So you try to learn the facts about and around the problem that you're looking at. The book says it readies the mental soil for the sowing of the seeds. The second point is incubation, the incubation period. And this is very, very, very important. In this period, no direct effort should be applied. You need to relax, or you can work on a different problem. I would say, from personal preference, work on a linear problem, so something that you can just get stuff done. And this is where most people go wrong. Like I said before, you might want to continue to implement or to work more on the problem that you cannot solve. So you spend more and more and more time, but you're not getting there. You're not getting the eureka moment. You are not getting this flash of insight. You need to back off and let your mind make the connections that you have, because you have the background. You did that in the first step, in the preparation step. But you need to let your mind work, and your mind doesn't work linearly. Creativity doesn't work linearly. So take a step back, let your mind make the connections, and then the illumination moment will come. So it might be in a dream, it might be while folding laundry, it might be in a conversation with a colleague. You don't know, right? It might be that you have multiple of these moments, right? Getting a bunch of ideas. And all of these ideas can be a path to success. You don't know that yet. So you're just gathering these illumination moments. And then finally, you're going into verification step, where you try to implement and test your ideas again with the skill set and the knowledge and the preparation knowledge that you build up already. And now you can do the hard work. You need the discipline, you need the dedication to test it out. And once it works, there will be another step of linear progress, where you can simply implement your ideas. If it doesn't work, you're back in the incubation time, where you need some insights of ideas. And I think that this is a very, very beautiful framework, and it has helped me a lot to implement this for creative problems or processes, for nonlinear problems or processes. Because this means that you need to spend dedicated time on the preparation and then back off, use that time to work on other stuff, keep a notepad close, or record voice memos if you have an insight or an idea, and come back to that problem once you got the illumination. I hope you understand a little bit now about how you can avoid distractions. You know why. I hope I could explain the Eisenhower Matrix to you. And I hope you can also understand the framework of the 4 stages of thought for nonlinear and creative processes. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video overall. I really love making it. Let me know what you think, if this can really help you become more creative, in the comments. If you liked the video, please give me a like and have a nice day.